let's talk about the distance formula. The distance formula is really just trying to say how far apart are these 2 points that I've drawn from each other. Now, first off, let me just write down what those points are. Remember, we always do x and then y. So this would be like that. Now, we're trying to figure out how far apart they are. Now, one way to visualize this is to think about this as a right triangle. And to then use Pythagorean theorem. We're looking for the hypotenuse. So you count, you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is also 5 units. So using Pythagorean theorem, we could simply square the 2 legs and add them together. And that would be equal to our x squared. So 25 plus 25. So 50. And the square root of 50 would be our answer. And of course, we could reduce that root. It would be 5 square roots of 2. Or you could type that in your calculator and get a decimal answer. But really, it's Pythagorean theorem. Now, the distance formula is, again, based on Pythagorean theorem, and it's meant to be able to do this same work without having to have the picture. So let me explain the formula. First off, we want to figure out this length down here. And the way we do that is simply finding the difference in the x's, how far apart are the 2 x's in our formula. And of course, that's subtraction. When someone says, well, how far apart are 2 things? You subtract. So I'm just saying, I have 2 points, take the first one minus the second one, and then you square it, because Pythagorean theorem says we square that leg. Then we do the same thing with the y's. We want to figure out how far apart the y's are from one another, so we can know the length of that leg, and then we square it. Now, when we add those 2 together, of course, that's equal to the distance squared. So the actual formula then says we'll just take the square root of whatever this sum is, and that is your distance formula. Okay? So for this example, let's say we have our 2 points, -4, -3, and 1, 2. So you say, well, the difference in the x's is -4 minus 1. Square that difference. The difference between the y's, square that difference, and then take the square root. And you can see, while this is -5, when we square that, -5 squared is 25. This is also -5, but when you square it, that's positive 25. And then we take the square root. You can see we get the exact same thing. Let's do one more where we're only going to use the formula. All right, so I have 2 points. I did plot them. But let's just use the formula. But remember, it's just Pythagorean theorem. So we say, well, how far apart are the x's? -6 minus 3, and we're going to square that. And then we're going to add how far apart the y's are. And at the end, we're just going to take the square root of that. So this first thing, of course, -6 minus 3 is -9. But when we square it, we get 81. 2 minus -4, but minus a negative is plus, so this is 6. Squared is 36. We're going to take the square root of that. And that is 117. Now, I just want to point out that 117 can be written as 9 times 13, of course, square roots. So 3 square roots of 13 if you wanted the exact reduced radical answer. Otherwise, you could just type in square root of 117 and get 10 point something. Now, just to draw in here, what we did, just so you have the visual, we figured out how far apart the y's were. That was 6 units if we count it. We figured out how far apart the x's were. That was 9 units. And then we simply calculated the hypotenuse. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe for more math help.